In computer science, a remote procedure call is an inter-process communication that allows a computer program to cause a subroutine or procedure to execute in another address space without the programmer explicitly coding the details for this remote interaction. That is, the programmer writes essentially the same code whether the subroutine is local to the executing program, or remote. When the software in question uses object-oriented principles, RPC is called remote invocation or remote method invocation. Many different technologies have been used to implement the concept. History and origins. The idea of treating network operations as remote procedure calls goes back at least to the 1980s and early ARPANET documents. Bruce J. Nelson is generally credited with coining the term. One of the first business uses of a PC was by Xerox under the name Courier in 1981. The first popular implementation of a PC on Unix was Sun's Rpc, used as the basis for network file system. Message passing. An Rpc is initiated by the client, which sends a request message to a known remote server to execute a specified procedure with supplied parameters. The remote server sends a response to the client, and the application continues its process. While the server is processing the call, the client is blocked, unless the client sends an asynchronous request to the server, such as an XHTTP call. There are many variations and subtleties in various implementations, resulting in a variety of different RPC protocols. An important difference between remote procedure calls and local calls is that remote calls can fail because of unpredictable network problems. Also, callers generally must deal with such failures without knowing whether the remote procedure was actually invoked. Idempotent procedures are easily handled, but enough difficulties remain that code to call remote procedures is often confined to carefully written low-level subsystems. Sequence of events during an Rpc. The client calls the client stub. The call is a local procedure call, with parameters pushed onto the stack in the normal way. The client stub packs the parameters into a message and makes a system call to send the message. Packing the parameters is called marshaling. The client's local operating system sends the message from the client machine to the server machine. The local operating system on the server machine passes the incoming packets to the server stub. The server stub unpacks the parameters from the message. Unpacking the parameters is called unmarshaling. Finally, the server stub calls the server procedure. The reply traces the same steps in the reverse direction. Standard contact mechanisms. To let different clients access servers, a number of standardized RPC systems have been created. Most of these use an interface description language to let various platforms call the RPC. The IDL files can then be used to generate code to interface between the client and server. Other Rpc analogs. The RPC paradigm was invented by Sun Microsystems with their implementation, now known as the Open Network Computing Remote Procedure Call. Other Rpc analogs and implementations can now be found elsewhere. Java's Java Remote Method Invocation API provides similar functionality to standard Unix RPC methods. Saucer provides the API and exertion-oriented language for a federated method invocation. Modula 3's network objects, which were the basis for Java's RMI, XML RPC is an RPC protocol that uses XML to encode its calls and HTTP is a transport mechanism. JSON RPC is an RPC protocol that uses JSON encoded messages. JSON WSP is an RPC protocol that uses JSON encoded messages. SOAP is a successor of XML RPC and also uses XML to encode its HTTP-based calls. RPYC implements RPC mechanisms in Python, with support for asynchronous calls. Spine defines primitives for doing RPC in Python. It also contains implementations of some of the most popular protocols and transports. Pyro object-oriented form of RPC for Python. ZeroC's Internet Communications Engine distributed computing platform. Etch framework for building network services. Apache Thrift protocol and framework. BERT-RPC is an RPC protocol in use by GitHub. CORBA provides remote procedure invocation through an intermediate layer called the Object Request Broker. Distributed Ruby allows Ruby programs to communicate with each other on the same machine or over a network. DRB uses remote method invocation to pass commands and data between processes. Action message format allows Adobe Flex applications to communicate with backends or other applications that support AMF. LibEvent provides a framework for creating RPC servers and clients. Windows Communication Foundation is an application programming interface in the .NET framework for building connected, service-oriented applications. Microsoft.NET Remoting offers RPC facilities for distributed systems implemented on the Windows platform. It has been superseded by WCF. The Microsoft DCOM uses MSRPC, which is based on DCERPC, the Open Software Foundation DCERPC distributed computing environment. Google Protocol Buffers package includes an interface definition language used for its RPC protocols. Google Web Toolkit uses an asynchronous RPC to communicate to the server service. Apache Avro provides a RPC where client and server exchange schemas in the connection handshake and code generation is not required. Spike Engine provides cross-platform RPC facilities for .NET Framework, web and mobile architectures with auto-generated stubs. Twitter-Finagle is a network stack for the JVM that you can use to build asynchronous remote procedure call clients and servers in Java, Scala, or any JVM-hosted language. SAP RFC is the standard SAP interface for communication between SAP systems. RFC calls a function to be executed in a remote system. Web. See also, Microsoft RPC, Local Procedure Call, SOAP, HTTP, ODBC, Remote Function Call, Remote Evaluation, External Data Representation, ROA, Distributed Object Middleware, Notes. References, Burrell, A.D. Nelson, B.J. Implementing Remote Procedure Calls. ACM Transactions on Computer Systems 2, 39 doi, 10.1145/2080.357392. This article is based on material taken from the free online Dictionary of Computing prior to November 1, 2008 and incorporated under the relicensing terms of the GFDL, version 1.3 or later. External links, RFC 1057, specifies version 1 of ONCRPC, RFC 5531, specifies version 2 of ONCRPC. Remote Procedure Calls, a Euro 8 tutorial on ONCRPC by Dr. Dave Marshall of Cardiff University, Introduction to RPC Programming, a Euro 8 Developer's Introduction to RPC and XDR, from SGIIRIX documentation.